Alex felt the weight of the silence pressing in on him as he stood in the middle of the vast, desolate field. His breath came in shallow, nervous bursts, the cool night air cutting through his jacket. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his feet refused to move. He had no idea why he had come here, why he had followed the strange signal to this remote patch of land, or what he was supposed to find. All he knew was that he was standing on the edge of something unimaginable. A low hum filled the air, so faint at first that Alex thought it was just his mind playing tricks on him, but then it grew louder, vibrating through his bones, pulling him deeper into the darkness. He scanned the horizon, his heart racing, eyes darting from shadow to shadow. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows over the ground. The only other source of light came from the distant glow of city lights far beyond the field. The place was completely empty, no animals, no sounds of insects, nothing, just the hum. Suddenly, a flash of light, like an electric pulse, split the air. It was brief, but it illuminated the night for a split second. A small shockwave rippled across the field, rustling the tall grass at Alex's feet. He froze, instinctively reaching for the gun at his side, but his hand hovered there, unsure. Was it an animal? Some kind of natural phenomenon? He didn't think so, not with that strange energy in the air. And then it appeared, a figure, towering and massive, emerged from the tree line across the field. Alex's breath caught in his throat. It was far too large to be human, standing at least 8 feet tall, with a frame that seemed too rigid and unnatural. The figure stepped forward, and Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. The alien, or whatever it was, moved with a strange grace despite its enormous size. Its skin glowed faintly, an unnatural shade of silver blue that seemed to shimmer with every movement. Long segmented limbs extended from its body, and its head was disproportionately large compared to its body, almost insectoid in appearance. The eyes, those massive black orbs, glistened in the dim light, like 2 inky pools of endless darkness. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, his body frozen in place. He had expected this moment for days now. The research, the signals, the whispers of alien encounters, everything had led to this. But seeing it with his own eyes, standing only a few 100 feet away, made the truth hit him like a hammer. This was real. This wasn't a hoax or some government conspiracy. The alien took another step forward, its gaze fixed on Alex with an intensity that made his skin crawl. For a moment, the two simply stared at each other across the distance. The air between them seemed thick, charged with something neither of them could explain. The hum grew louder again, vibrating through Alex's chest now, and then to his horror the creature spoke. Its voice wasn't heard through his ears but rather through his mind, clear, deep, and unnervingly calm. "You are the one who has come." Alex's mouth went dry, his legs threatening to give way beneath him. He didn't know how to respond. Was it reading his thoughts? Communicating directly into his mind? Before he could gather his thoughts, the alien moved again, slowly and deliberately. Each step felt like it shook the ground beneath him. As the creature closed the distance between them, Alex could see its features more clearly. The intricate, almost geometric patterns etched into its skin, the strange, bioluminescent veins that pulsed faintly beneath the surface. "I have been waiting," the voice echoed in his mind. "You are not like the others. They did not understand. You will." Alex couldn't breathe. Every part of his body screamed at him to run, but he couldn't. His feet were cemented to the ground, his heart thundering in his chest. He wanted to shout, to ask questions, but no words came. The alien stopped just a few feet from him, towering above him with an almost serene expression. Its massive form loomed over Alex, and for the briefest moment he thought it might reach out and touch him. But instead the creature merely raised one of its long, slender arms, pointing toward the sky. "Look!" The voice was insistent, commanding. Alex followed the gesture, turning his head toward the sky. For a second there was nothing, just the endless expanse of black above him. And then, in the far distance, something moved. A shape, a massive shape, hovered silently in the sky. At first, Alex thought it was a cloud, but it didn't move like a cloud should. It wasn't shaped like any weather pattern he had ever seen. The object was huge, immeasurably so, its edges blurred, shifting in and out of focus, as though it didn't quite belong in the sky. It seemed to pulse with a strange energy, like the entire ship was alive, breathing, the glow from the ship reflected on the alien's face, casting its features in a ghostly light. Alex's throat went dry. He had heard rumors, whispers of alien ships in the sky, but seeing one so close was a completely different experience. His hands shook as he raised them, his body trembling under the weight of the sight before him. "The ship," the alien intoned, softly. "It waits." For a moment, Alex stood frozen, trying to process everything that was happening. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of hallucination. But the alien was still there, standing in front of him, and the ship was still hovering, distant but tangible in the sky. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. What could he say? What should he say? The alien seemed to sense his confusion, its massive eyes narrowing slightly. "You will understand, in time." Suddenly, the alien took a step back, lowering its arm, and Alex felt the air around him shift. The hum, the vibrations, all of it seemed to settle, as though the moment of contact had passed. The alien didn't leave, but it didn't move closer either. It was as though they were caught in an unspoken standstill, neither side willing to make the first move, and then, without warning, the creature did something unexpected. It turned its head slightly, as though listening to something beyond Alex's reach, and then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the creature took a single step backward. "I will return." And just like that, the alien vanished, not in the way Alex had expected. No sudden flash of light, no explosion of energy. It simply faded into the night, disappearing as though it had never been there at all. The hum faded with it, and the silence of the field rushed back in. Alex stood there, heart pounding, his entire body shaking with a mixture of fear, awe, and disbelief. His legs felt like jelly as he collapsed to his knees. He could barely comprehend what had just happened. Was this the beginning of something incredible, or the beginning of the end? The question hung in the air, unanswered, but one thing was certain: he was no longer alone. Whatever this alien was, it wasn't just a passing visitor. It had chosen him, and Alex had no idea what that meant. Alex sat in his small apartment, the dim light of his desk lamp casting long shadows on the walls. The cluttered desk in front of him was a testament to the obsession that had taken over his life in the past few days. Books, notebooks, and a scattered array of printouts covered the surface, each page filled with the same questions, the same theories. But there were no answers. His mind kept returning to the alien, its eyes, black, infinite, and full of something unspoken, the strange energy in the air, the unshakable feeling that something monumental had just begun. What was it? What did it want from him? And why him? Alex ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. He couldn't focus. He had tried so hard to find something that would make sense of the encounter, but every lead he chased down only seemed to make the mystery deeper. He had followed the signals, done his research, and now, standing on the precipice of something much bigger than himself, all he had were more questions. He glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight, but he had barely slept since that night. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, all he saw was the alien's face, its words echoing in his mind. "You are the one who has come." His phone buzzed, breaking his reverie. He glanced at the screen. A message from his best friend, Jacob. "You good, man? Been a week since we last talked. You're freaking me out with all this alien stuff." Alex stared at the message for a long moment. He had been avoiding Jacob, everyone, really. How could he explain this? How could he talk about an alien encounter when he didn't even understand it himself? He had always been the rational one, the one who believed in science, in facts. But now facts didn't seem to matter anymore. He hesitated, typing a response, but then his finger hovered over the screen, unsure of what to say. After a long pause, he finally typed back, "I'm fine, just busy. I'll explain everything." Soon, he sent the message and tossed his phone aside. No one would understand, not unless they had seen what he had seen, and even then, what could he say? That an alien, 8 feet tall and glowing, had walked out of the woods and spoken to him, that a massive ship had hovered in the sky, pulsing with strange energy? No, he wasn't ready to share that, not yet. The silence of the apartment felt suffocating. He stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth. He had no idea how long he had been walking, but eventually he found himself staring out the window, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. His mind replayed the encounter over and over again. The alien had said something important, something that had stayed with him. "You will understand. In time." Alex rubbed his eyes. If only he knew what that meant. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to be scared, or if he should be looking for more answers. What was his role in all of this? Why had he been chosen? It didn't make sense. And yet, deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had a part to play in something far greater than himself. And then there was the signal. The one he had tracked down using the frequency he had been studying for months. It wasn't random. The pattern was deliberate, almost as if it was calling him. The thought gnawed at the back of his mind. What if this was just the beginning? He had been studying alien encounters for years, researching the oddities of the universe, searching for proof that there was something more out there. He had dreamed of this moment, of making contact, but now that it had happened, he felt both terrified and exhilarated. But now came the real question. What should he do next? A plan takes shape. Days passed, and Alex remained holed up in his apartment, poring over any piece of information he could find. The encounter had left him shaken, but it had also sparked something inside him, a sense of purpose. Something inside him told him he couldn't just walk away from this. He had to learn more. He had to know why the alien had come to him, what its message meant, and what was coming next. One evening, as he sat hunched over his computer searching for any trace of similar encounters, he found something. It was a message buried deep in a classified government document, one he had somehow missed in his frantic research. The words were simple, but the implications were chilling. They are here, and we are not ready. Alex's heart skipped a beat. The document referenced strange, unexplained phenomena, alien sightings, unusual occurrences, and even reports of alien ships. But what struck him the most was the last line, the one that seemed to resonate with his own experience. They are waiting for something. We don't know what, but it's coming. He leaned back in his chair, the weight of the words pressing down on him. He couldn't ignore it anymore. He had to find out what was going on. And maybe, just maybe, he was meant to be the one to uncover the truth. Alex knew there was only one thing left to do. Make contact again. He had to. There was no turning back now. The decision to act. That night, he sat in front of the old radio. Equipment he had bought a week ago. An outdated piece of technology that was somehow the key to reaching the alien. It wasn't sophisticated, but it was the only thing he had. He had been working with it for days, trying to understand how to send a signal, how to communicate. But nothing had worked. Until tonight. The device hummed to life as Alex adjusted. The dials, the static buzzed in his ears as he fiddled with the settings, searching for the frequency. He wasn't sure why he felt so compelled to do this. Maybe it was the fear of the unknown. Maybe it was the desire to finally understand. But he had to do it. He had to know more. As the static grew louder, Alex steadied his breath. He leaned, in closer to the microphone, his fingers hovering over the button. The room felt cold, the air heavy with anticipation. He could hear the thrum of his heartbeat in his ears, drowning out the static for a moment. He pressed the button. "Is anyone there?" he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I need to know what's going on. Why me?" There was a long pause. For a moment, Alex thought he had made a mistake. Maybe the alien had disappeared. Maybe it had been a one-time encounter. But then, just as he was about to give up, a response came. It was faint at first, like a whisper in the distance. But then it grew louder, more distinct. "You have asked the right question." Alex's breath caught in his throat. The alien's voice. It was the same deep, calm tone as before, but this time there was something different about it. Something almost welcoming. He swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice shaking. "What do you want from us?" the alien replied. The question echoed in his mind, reverberating in his skull. It wasn't a direct answer, but it was enough. It was enough to make him realize the depth of this encounter. This wasn't just about him. This was about something much larger, something beyond human comprehension. He didn't know what to say next. His mind raced, 1,000 thoughts flooding in at once. Could he trust the alien? Could he trust himself to make the right decision? But one thing was clear. He was in this now. There was no turning back. Alex sat by his desk, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, but not typing. The words he had, heard from the alien, echoed in his mind, their meaning swirling around like smoke. "What do you want from us?" What did that even mean? What was he supposed to answer? And why did it feel like the alien was just as uncertain as he was about the situation? The questions multiplied faster than he could keep up with them. He rubbed his temples, trying to clear his mind. "What do you want from us?" Alex leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. The weight of the encounter pressed heavily on him. He had spent years preparing for this moment, studying alien encounters, learning about the unknown, researching signals and technology. But nothing had prepared him for the reality of it. He had expected answers. Instead, all he had were more questions. He glanced around the room, at the piles of notes and the half-finished reports scattered across the table. None of it made sense. None of it had ever mattered until now. He'd been chasing the unknown for years, but now he was face to face with it. And all he had was the alien's voice. A voice that seemed to be both far away and yet unmistakably close. The words were simple, but their meaning felt as if it was hidden just out of reach, like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Alex stood abruptly and walked to the window, staring out into the dark city below. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the pavement. He had never felt so alone in his life. There was no one to turn to for help. His mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of what was happening. The alien had come to him for a reason. But why? What do you want from us? It wasn't just a question, it was a challenge, a test. Alex could feel it deep inside his gut. He wasn't just a bystander in this alien encounter. He was part of it. And that thought both terrified and exhilarated him. He had to know more. He had to understand the purpose behind this. Why had the alien singled him out? Why had it reached out to him? The search for meaning days turned into weeks. Alex became consumed by his search for answers. He reached out to every resource he could think of, scouring the dark corners of the internet, reading papers on extraterrestrial contact, and diving into old government documents. But nothing helped. It was as if the answers he sought were deliberately hidden. The alien's message lingered, taunting him with its simplicity. "What do you want from us?" The words haunted him. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were meant for him, that they held a deeper meaning he was failing to uncover. In the midst of his search, he received another message from the alien. This time, it was different. It wasn't just a question. It was an instruction. "Come to the place of your birth. We will meet you there." The message sent a shiver down his spine. The place of his birth? Was the alien asking him to return to his childhood home? To the small town he had left behind years ago? Alex didn't know what to make of it. He had lived a quiet life there, far removed from the world of aliens and space exploration. But something about the message felt personal. Alex spent the next few days debating what to do. Was this some sort of trap, a manipulation, or was it a genuine invitation to meet again, to learn more about the alien's intentions? Either way, he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't ignore it. He packed a bag and booked a flight back to his hometown, unsure of what he was walking into. The thought of seeing his old town, his parents, his childhood home, filled him with a strange mix of nostalgia and anxiety. Had he changed so much? Had the world around him changed? Or was it all part of the plan, something far greater than any of them could have predicted? The return. As the plane touched down in the small, familiar airport, Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach. It had been years since he had returned. The town hadn't changed much. The same old houses lined the streets, the same stores stood at the corners, but it felt different now. It felt like everything had shifted, as if he were standing on the edge of something monumental. He rented a car and drove to his childhood home, the place that had once felt like a safe haven, a place of comfort and familiarity. But now it felt cold, empty, as though he had come back to a place that no longer belonged to him. The house sat at the edge of town, surrounded by fields and forests. The same fields where, as a child, he had spent countless hours playing, dreaming, and wondering what was beyond the stars. Alex stood at the door for a moment, hesitant. Should he really be here? Was this part of the alien's plan? To bring him back to this place? He opened the door and stepped inside, the creak of the old wood echoing in the silence. Everything was just as he remembered it, familiar yet unsettling. The air smelled faintly of dust and old memories. He made his way to the backyard, his mind racing with questions. What was waiting for him here? What had the alien meant by the place of your birth? As he stepped into the backyard, he froze. There, in the distance at the edge of the woods, he saw a faint light, a glow that seemed out of place in the quiet rural setting. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't sure if he was imagining it, if it was just his mind playing tricks on him, but the light was there, and it was coming from the woods. Without thinking, he began to walk toward it, his legs carrying him forward with a sense of inevitability. The air grew colder as he neared the forest, the trees standing like silent sentinels in the night. The glow grew brighter, more intense, and he could feel the hair on the back of his neck stand up. When he reached the clearing, he stopped. In the center of it stood a figure that could only be described as the alien. The same towering presence, the same black eyes, the same eerie aura. But this time, something was different. This time, the alien was not alone. Around it, in the shadows, were several more figures, smaller humanoid shapes that blended into the darkness. They moved silently, like specters, their forms barely distinguishable in the dim light. Alex stood, frozen, his breath catching in his throat. He didn't know what to do, what to say. He wasn't prepared for this. The alien spoke again, its voice softer this time, almost gentle. "You have come." Alex nodded, unable to speak. His mind was spinning. This wasn't just a meeting. This was something far more significant, something he couldn't fully comprehend. But there was no turning back now. The revelation. The alien stepped closer, its presence overwhelming. The smaller figures followed, their eyes glimmering in the dark. Alex could feel the weight of their gaze upon him, and for the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be watched by something not of this world. "We are not here by accident," the alien said, its voice clear despite the distance. "We have been waiting for you to understand." Alex swallowed hard, trying to steady his breath. "Understand what?" he managed to say. "The truth about us. About you." The alien's words sent a shock through Alex's entire body. The truth about him. What did it mean? The alien reached out a long, slender hand, and with a sudden movement, the world around Alex seemed to distort. Time slowed. The air thickened. And then, like a switch had been flipped, Alex saw something. Images. Flashes of memories that weren't his own. He saw the alien race, their history, their purpose. He saw the connection between them and humanity, how their fates had been intertwined for millennia. He saw Earth not as it was, but as it would be. A future where humanity had either evolved or perished, depending on what Alex chose. To do next, the alien's voice whispered in his ear, "This is your decision. What will you do?" The morning after the encounter in the woods, Alex woke up with a deep sense of unease. His mind was still reeling from the images and the alien's cryptic words. He had returned to his childhood home in the hopes of finding answers, but now it seemed as though the answers had come to him, and they were far more complicated than he could have imagined. He couldn't remember falling asleep. His head was spinning from the disorienting images that had flooded his mind the night before. The alien's voice was still fresh in his ears. "This is your decision. What will you do?" Alex ran his hands through his hair and sat up on the bed. The room was dim, the sunlight barely peeking through the curtains. His body ached from the tension, his muscles tight with the weight of the choices he had to make. "What will you do?" The question echoed in his mind. What was he supposed to do? He wasn't just dealing with some rogue alien or an accidental encounter. No, this was much bigger. This was about humanity's future. This was about his future. Alex got up and paced around the room, his thoughts racing. He didn't understand why the alien had chosen him. Why had he been singled out for this? What made him special? The alien had shown him their history, their fate, and the delicate balance that had been struck between their worlds. And now it seemed like the time had come for him to make a choice that would alter the course of human history. But how could he choose? How could he make a decision of that magnitude, knowing that whatever he did would have lasting consequences for everyone? His thoughts were interrupted by the ringing of his phone. It was a number he didn't recognize. "Alex." The voice on the other end was familiar, but distant. "It's Sarah. We need to talk." The return of Sarah. Sarah was one of the few people Alex had ever truly trusted. They had been friends since childhood, but their paths had diverged after high school. Sarah had gone into the military, serving in special forces, while Alex had gone on to study alien phenomena and space exploration. They hadn't seen each other in years, but somehow their lives always seemed to cross paths when the world was at its most uncertain. Alex stared at the phone for a moment before answering. "Sarah," he said, trying to steady his voice. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you." "I know," she said, her tone serious. "Listen, I don't have much time, but you need to know something. I've been keeping tabs on you, and I've learned about your recent activities." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected her to know anything, but then again, he wasn't exactly hiding his research. He had made public declarations, posted articles, and even given lectures about alien contact and extraterrestrial life. But he never thought anyone in his past would be keeping track of him. "What do you mean, my activities?" he asked. "I know you've made contact with them," Sarah replied, her voice low. "And I know you're confused. But you need to be careful, Alex. This is bigger than you think." Alex froze. How did she know? Who had told her? Had she somehow found out about the alien encounter? Was the government involved? "Who told you?" he asked, his voice tightening. "No one," she said. "But we've been tracking this, Alex. The signals, the sightings, the disappearances. It's all connected. And now you're part of it." Alex felt a cold chill wash over him. "What? Do you mean part of it?" "There are forces at play that you can't even begin to understand," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "And they've been watching you. Ever since you made contact with the alien, things have changed, and not for the better." Alex's mind raced. What did she know? What was happening? "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling, "I don't know what's going on. The alien spoke to me. It showed me things. It said I had to choose. I don't know what to do." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was full of disbelief and worry. "You're telling me that you've had direct contact with them, with the aliens?" she asked. "Yes," Alex replied. "They came to me. They said humanity's future depends on my choice. I have no idea what to do, Sarah. Everything's a mess." "Alex," she said quietly, "you have to understand something. The aliens aren't just interested in you. They've been planning something for years. And now that they've made contact with you, they're not just looking for answers. They're looking for something far more important." Alex's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "They're looking for a way to change things, to take control. I don't know what they want exactly, but it's not good, Alex. Whatever they're asking you to do, it's not something you should be part of." Alex felt his stomach twist. He thought back to the strange, unsettling images the alien had shown him, the history of their people, their connection to humanity. It felt like there was so much more beneath the surface, something he couldn't yet grasp. But Sarah's warning echoed in his mind. "They're looking for a way to change things." His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. The sound was sharp and insistent, and Alex immediately tensed. Who could that be? "I have to go, Sarah," he said quickly. "Someone's at the door." "Be careful, Alex," she replied. "This isn't just a chance encounter. This is something much bigger." He hung up the phone and moved cautiously toward the door. His heart pounded as he reached for the handle. Whoever was on the other side, he had a feeling that the events of the last few days were about to take an even darker turn. The stranger Alex opened the door to find a man standing on the other side. He was tall, with dark, intense eyes, and a face that seemed both familiar and foreign. He wore a long, weathered coat, and there was a subtle air of authority about him, though his presence didn't seem threatening. "Not yet. Can I help you?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The man didn't answer immediately. He just stood there, studying Alex with an almost unsettling intensity. "I'm looking for someone," the man finally said. "And I think you're the one I need to speak with." Alex's mind raced. Was this connected to the alien? Was this someone sent by them? "Who are you?" Alex asked, his heart beginning to race again. The man stepped forward slightly, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "I've been watching you, Alex, and I think you've already figured out more than you realize. It's time for you to make a choice." Alex's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something much larger than he had anticipated. "I don't understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The man smiled, though it was a cold, distant smile. "You will. Soon enough." Alex's fingers gripped the doorknob, his heart pounding in his chest. The stranger's cold, calculating gaze drilled into him. and he could feel the weight of everything bearing down on him. It was as though the world outside had faded away, leaving only this moment, the moment where everything would change. "Who are you?" Alex asked again, trying to find some semblance of control over the situation. The man's lips curled into a thin, knowing smile, but his eyes held no warmth. He looked almost inhuman, detached, like someone who had long ago abandoned any pretense of humanity. "I think you know who I am, Alex," the man replied, his voice eerily calm, "and I think you know why I'm here." The weight of those words made Alex's stomach churn. The man's presence was unsettling, his words cryptic and layered with meaning. He knew exactly who Alex was, and that wasn't just coincidence. The alien encounter, the messages, everything was coming together in ways Alex couldn't fully comprehend. "I've never seen you before in my life," Alex said, forcing his voice to sound more confident than he felt. "What do you want from me?" The man took a step forward, his demeanor unwavering. "You've been chosen, Alex. Chosen by forces beyond your understanding. The alien, the signal, it's all part of a much bigger plan, one that has been in motion for centuries." Alex's mind spun. A bigger plan. What did he mean? The alien had already told him about humanity's fate, about the choice that he had to make. Was this man connected to that choice? Was he another piece of the puzzle that Alex had been desperately trying to put together? "Chosen," Alex repeated, trying to digest the magnitude of the statement. "What do you mean, chosen?" The man's expression didn't change, but there was a glimmer of something, recognition perhaps, in his eyes. "The alien you spoke to, the one you're communicating with, is not the only one of its kind. They are not here by accident. They've been watching Earth for longer than you can imagine." The words hit Alex like a tidal wave. He staggered back, pressing a hand to the doorframe for support. His mind raced to keep up with the flood of information. He'd been in contact with something far more significant than he had ever realized. Something that wasn't just about one alien making contact, but about something that spanned generations, maybe even millennia. The man continued, his voice steady but insistent. "The world you know is not what you think it is, Alex. What they showed you, the history, the plans, those were only glimpses. But you've only scratched the surface. And now you must decide whether you will help them or whether you will stop them." Alex's pulse quickened. "Stop them? What are you talking about?" "Humanity's future is at stake," the man said, his words carrying the weight of something monumental. "And you are the key. The alien has given you a choice, one that will determine the fate of both your world and theirs." The alien's true intentions, the words, hung in the air, thick with tension. The man's calm demeanor only made the situation feel more urgent, more dangerous. Alex struggled to process everything he had just learned. He thought he understood the stakes, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. "Why me?" Alex asked, finally able to speak. "Why was I chosen? I'm just a guy who's been researching aliens. I'm no hero. I don't have any special skills or—" "You're not the first," the man interrupted, his tone still smooth, but there was an edge to it now. "There have been others. Other humans who were given the same choice. Some of them chose to help the aliens, and others tried to stop them. All of them failed, and that's why you're here." Alex stared at the man, trying to piece together what he was saying. Others had been given this choice before, and they had failed? "You're telling me I'm part of some experiment?" Alex asked, incredulous. The man didn't flinch. "Not an experiment, Alex. A mission, a war of sorts. But you're wrong if you think it's about the aliens. It's about humanity. The choice you make will shape the course of your species, not just for the next few decades, but for centuries to come." Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. The gravity of the situation hit him all at once. He had been thrust into something far bigger than he had ever expected, and now, not only was his life at risk, but the fate of the entire world hung in the balance. "And if I refuse?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The man's expression softened, but only slightly. If you refuse, there will be consequences. The aliens have a plan, and they will not stop. You have seen what they are capable of. You've felt their presence. The question is, Alex, will you stand in their way, or will you help them? Alex's mind spun. The alien had shown him visions of a future where humanity was either enslaved or destroyed, and of a future where they could coexist, evolve, and thrive. The choice the alien had given him wasn't simple. It wasn't just a matter of helping or hindering the aliens. It was a question of survival, of the future of the human race. "I don't know what to do," Alex admitted, his voice cracking. "How can I make such a decision? How do I know what's right?" The man stepped closer, his eyes piercing into Alex's soul. "That's the question, isn't it? You're afraid of making the wrong choice, but deep down, you already know what the right decision is." Alex's heart thudded in his chest as he met the man's gaze. "I don't know if I can do this," he said, his voice barely audible. "You don't have a choice," the man said, his voice dark and final. "You're already in this, whether you like it or not. The aliens have already marked you, and now you have to choose what side you're on." The call to action. Alex's head was spinning. The weight of the decision was too much to bear. For a moment, everything felt like it was closing in on him. The man's words, the alien's message, the burden of humanity's future pressing on his shoulders. He felt paralyzed, unsure of what to do next. But then something inside him snapped. "You're right," Alex said, his voice steady now, though still filled with uncertainty. "I don't know if I can make the right decision, but I know I can't stay here, stuck in indecision. I have to find out what's really going on. I have to understand the truth." The man nodded, as though he had expected this response. "Good. That's the first step. But be warned, Alex, what you find might not be what you want to hear. The truth is often more dangerous than the lie." Alex nodded slowly, steeling himself for what was to come. He wasn't sure where this journey would take him or what would happen when he reached the end, but he knew one thing. He couldn't walk away from this. Not now. "I'm in," Alex said, his voice firm. "Tell me what I need to do." The man didn't speak for a moment. He simply watched Alex, his gaze unreadable. Then finally he spoke. "The choice is yours, Alex. But remember, once you make it, there's no going back." Smoke curled into the pale morning sky. The forest beyond Alex's home had caught fire the night before, though no natural cause could explain it. Trees still crackled, scorched earth whispering warnings. It was no accident. The alien ship that had been hiding beyond the ridge had lifted off last night, and when it did, it wasn't subtle. Alex stood alone in the clearing, staring at the charred soil where the grass had once been alive. Behind him, the cabin that once represented peace was now just another symbol of how far he'd been pulled from the world he knew. The world was changing. No, he was changing. The encounter with the shadowy man had forced him to question everything. Who really controlled the narrative? The aliens? Or those hidden among humans who knew of them for generations? He hadn't slept. Instead, he'd been poring over the last data transmission from the alien. Her name, he finally learned, was Kieran. Not a number, not a label. She had a name. That simple truth struck deeper than he expected, and now he had to make a decision that would shape the future of two civilizations. The truth revealed Kieran's final message, replayed in his mind like a whisper at the edge of a dream. "You are more than you believe. You were chosen not because you are powerful, but because you are human. You must choose whether to allow your species to ascend or be consumed by its own fear." But it wasn't just the aliens that scared him now. After the man left, Alex had followed a trail of clues, hidden data caches, abandoned labs, encrypted military memos. The governments of Earth had known for decades. Contact had already happened long ago. Some humans had already betrayed their kind. Deals had been struck. Alien tech traded for silence. Surveillance programs built to track possibles like Alex. And then there were others, silent groups that had resisted from the shadows. One of them had found Alex last night, a woman named Eva, part of a rogue scientific network that had once worked with Kirian's species before the pact was broken. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. A meeting in the sky, the alien ship returned at dawn, not in secret this time, but loud, glowing with blue and silver light. It descended silently above the tree line, a pillar of light reaching to the ground. Alex stepped forward, alone. Kirian emerged from the light. 8 feet tall, her form shifted between solid and translucent, her eyes glowing faintly. She didn't move like a predator. She moved like someone who had already seen too many wars. "You came," she said, not in English, but Alex understood. "I had to. You have questions." "I have answers too," Alex said. "You didn't tell me everything." Kirian tilted her head, curious. "You made it sound like my choice. Was binary, help you or watch humanity fall? But it's more complicated than that. You've been here before. You made deals before." Kirian's face didn't change, but her energy pulsed faintly. "Yes, we made contact centuries ago. We offered knowledge. In return, we were betrayed. Your leaders feared what they could not control. And now you want me to fix that? No. We want to give your species another chance. But this time, we won't deal with leaders. We'll deal with your people, through you." The Planalek stepped onto the ship for the first time, seeing it from the inside. It wasn't cold metal or blinking lights. It was alive, humming gently, like it could feel him walking. Kirian showed him a projection, thousands of other ships hidden in orbit, cloaked and waiting, not to attack, but to observe, to offer contact, to any part of Earth that chose to engage willingly. "Each ship holds a seed," she explained. "Not a weapon, but an archive. Technology, history, cures, solutions to your planet's crises, but we will not force them. We will wait. The message must come from you." Alex felt his throat dry. "And if they say no, then we leave. You will survive, perhaps even thrive, but you will remain alone." Alone! The word echoed in his mind. Kirian offered him a device, small, orb-like, pulsing with energy. "You must broadcast the invitation, not as a threat, as a choice. And once done, it cannot be undone." Broadcast to the world hours later. Back at his rebuilt cabin, Alex activated the device. Cameras around the world flickered, screens glitched, then stabilized. He stood before a plain background, face weary but firm. And for the first time, the world saw the man who had made contact. "My name is Alex Hale. You don't know me, but you will. I was the first to meet her, a being from beyond our stars. She wasn't here to conquer us. She was here to offer something else, a choice." He paused, letting the words sink in. The world governments knew. Some of them struck deals, some buried the truth. But they were afraid. "I'm not. You shouldn't be either." He lifted the orb. "This is a transmitter. If enough of us choose yes, they will come, not as masters, as guests, as teachers. We can learn or we can turn away. The choice is ours." He looked straight into the camera. "But know this, we've reached the edge of what we can do alone. Climate collapse, war, division. Humanity stands at a cliff, and we either fall or we take the hand that's offered." The screen faded to black. The world's reaction. The world didn't answer immediately. There was chaos at first, conspiracy theories, denials, panic in some cities, reverence in others. People took to the streets in protest and celebration alike. Religious leaders called it a second coming. Politicians called it a hoax. But slowly, something changed. People began to think, to question, to look up. One by one, beacons lit up around the world. signs from individual cities, towns, even villages, a voluntary signal, one that said, yes, we are ready. Within a week, over 200 beacons had been activated, and the aliens began to arrive, not in a dramatic invasion, but quietly, peacefully, walking among humans, teaching, not ruling, healing, not conquering. The world did not unite overnight, but it had started because of one man, the final conversation. Alex sat under the stars with Kieran one last time. Her ship would leave soon, others would take her place, but their bond would remain. You were right, she said. Your kind is unpredictable, but full of light. I didn't do this alone, Alex said. I just believed we could be more. Kieran nodded. And you will be, but remember this, progress is never instant, and peace is not the absence of struggle. It's the choice to grow, despite the struggle. She placed a hand over his heart, gently, and that is what makes your kind extraordinary. The lesson in the months that followed. Earth changed, not because of new rulers or alien laws, but because of a shift in how people saw themselves. The unknown wasn't a threat anymore, it was a challenge, and from challenge came evolution. Alex never sought fame, but his story spread far and wide. Some called him the bridge walker, others called him mad, but those who truly understood called him something else, human. Because in the end, it wasn't his strength or intelligence or luck that saved Earth. It was the one thing that defined humanity above all. The courage to choose connection over fear. The end.